Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey there, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Pardon my vocals. I'm getting over a bit of a chest and head cold, which is always awesome this time of year in Chicago. But we've got a pretty good episode lined up here today. I've got our friend Byron Rogers with Bravo Research Group here out of Southern California. You guys are you described it, a boutique executive protection company.
Yes, sir. That is true, man. And it's an honor to be here with y'all today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm glad that you jumped on. For folks that go to the Instagram world, your Instagram is Executive Protection Lifestyle. Maybe there's an underscore in there somewhere.
Yeah, I've got two of them. There's this Executive Protection Lifestyle, and that's just all about kind of my podcast and all that kind of protection stuff, and that brand. And then my personal is Byron Rogers, Byron_Rogers with a D. And that one, you get a little more me on it. You know what I'm saying? A little more stank on it here and there, a little more inspiration, motivation, and things like that.
Cool. I was looking at something you put up the other day on your Instagram account, and it caught my eye instantly because it's something that my father actually introduced me to as a young man. I think the gentleman that said it when I heard it was, what the heck is his name? The author of Think and Grow Rich. My brain is
Alan.
No.
It's one of my favorite.
Napoleon Hill.
Oh, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah. And wasn't like it was him that came up with it, but he said, and this is what you were talking about, was knowledge is not power. It's potential. Right? And I think we hear people say that constantly, like, go get a great education because knowledge is power. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. To me, the knowledge is power thing, I think it's part of the equation. And I definitely respect that. But I think that the folks that kind of can lean on that are folks that, I don't know, I just feel like I gather knowledge all the time. And it's when I get into the act of creating, it's the act of superimposing that knowledge on reality. That reality actually validates that knowledge. And then I don't get to experience the fruitage of that knowledge until I've gone through a process of applying that knowledge efficiently and effectively. So to me, it's like, you need knowledge, because if you just have action without knowledge, you'll die tired. You know what I mean? But
right.
Knowledge is like the first half. That's the beginning of really like affecting your life positively. You know what I mean? I can go on rabbit holes, man.
I think, that's interesting. You said you can go down rabbit holes. I think that's analogous to what you said before that of action without knowledge. You just go down rabbit holes. I'll try this. I'll try that.
Yeah.
I'll add this to the mix. I'll take that out of the mix. For me, it always comes down to, like, what's my goal? What do I need to get to the goal? Like, do I need to call my friend Byron and ask him for help? Do I need to go get some education at the local college? Whatever it might be. And then what do I do with it once I get it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And 100%, like, it all comes down to me, like, I've never been the smartest and the brightest. Like I've been one of those guys in boot camp in the Marine Corps where they were like, yo, you're not that smart. You're going to be really strong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was the guy who had to, like, study everything 4, 5, 6 times to get it, So I've never looked at myself as being a really smart guy. But, trying to offset that by going and finishing my master's degree in forensic psychology here in a few months.
Cool.
With that having been said, yeah, man, like, I believe that when it comes to affecting your life, it's hard to believe knowledge is power if you're in the act of reality creation all the time. Because if you're constantly working that knowledge, like, I know how to lift weights, but I got to do the thing to have the power. You know what I mean? Someone could tell me 100 million ways to do it, but until I actually go in the gym, I don't get to experience the fruit of it. Now, if I'm not busy creating that or doing that, I can sit back and be a coffee shop revolutionary and be like, yo, knowledge is power, as I sip on my, chocolate mocha latte or whatever. But I feel like it becomes a really, really flimsy principle the second you get into action, because you're like, yo, grandma's idea was good. My cousin who I was talking to's idea wasn't necessarily that good. I read a book that said XYZ, this was pertinent. I read a book that said 1, 2, 3 that was absolutely irrelevant. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that, like, yo, there's no guru out there that's in your situation with all the variables that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? With the synergy of experiences and emotions and responsibilities that you have that can give you the answer. And I think that's what's so beautiful about life. You know what I mean? Because you have to evolve personally to do this thing.
Right on. What do you mean by reality creation? You said that term a minute ago.
I think it's just the deliberate creation of, your life and your reality. It's the act of trying to superimpose your will onto your life, so that's kind of the short answer. But, I just believe that you've been given a body, you've been given a mind. We all got dealt cards. Nothing's fair. You know what I mean?
My mother's favorite saying as kids, nothing in life is fair. Get over it.
Awesome. Yeah. Burn it to the ground along with Santa Claus. And going ahead and do the best you can with be a good steward with what you've been given. And so to me, the game is like, if you want to see a person like that person, what are you? I believe your will is the best way to see who and what, how evolved and how effective you are at stuff. Can you get yourself not to eat the cookie? Can you get the results you want in your life? And that's reality creation, really.
That's interesting. Without being judgmental of others, it's interesting to look at people, look at their lives, look at them physically, look at, like, we all know somebody that's like a train wreck every time you talk to them. My wife threw me out. Can I borrow some money, man? The gas is getting
the edge of the world.
Something. I've been that. I have 100%. I have been that shithead where, the world's out to get me. And you have friends like that or people in your family, and you start to look at it and it's like
what?
What you take zero responsibility and like believe you have no power to affect anything in your life. It's an interesting, and again, like, I'm not being judgmental, but you can look at a guy. I got a dude that I know that's a lawyer that is a legit pack rat. There's like hallways through his office. The carpets haven't been vacuumed in 40 years. Man. Like bowls of fruit with mold all over them. His beard's full of stuff. His suit's got it's gross. And he's a decent lawyer, but you look and you're like, what's actually going on inside this dude? I'm just commenting on the fruit of
their life,
people's choices. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. No, for me, I look at it a few ways, man. Like I judge, but I don't condemn. You know what I mean? Right. So like I see your fruit, and I know when I look at your life, I see your standards. I see your physical standards and your physical fitness. Is that what you're talking about? Right there? That's some good standards, some high standards right there. I see, financial standards if we look inside your bank account, relational standards when we look at your relationships. I think the accountability mirror that Goggins talks about is fire. It's an outstanding thing. But, at the same time as I see those things, I think it's very important to temper that with the reality of, hey, bro, there was a time when I didn't know what I know, when I was just like a fat little black kid. And I just was scared, and I was like, I'm not smart enough to go to college. Maybe I can play football. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to the Marine Corps for a number of different reasons, And so
were you raised to be told that you weren't smart enough to go to college, or did you come to that conclusion on your own as a product of all the stimulus around you?
I was born in the Bahamas, and in the Bahamas, and it is cool. But I grew up in Washington State. So like in the Bahamas, they're actually quite a bit ahead in school. And so when I got here, school was easy for me. So I just started chilling. I skipped a grade in the Bahamas, and I came here and I was like, yo, this is easy. I don't have to apply myself. And I blinked and I was behind in all my classes. So then I cheated my way through pretty much everything. So then I found myself in a position where like, yo, I'm not this like academic genius. Now that whole process of cheating and conning really helped my social skills evolve, which I've learned is one of the most valuable skills that a human can have. Because I believe everything that comes in and out of your life comes through relationships.
I agree.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. So now, for me, I went to Iraq, fought in the war, came back, and it was like, yo, what else are you afraid of? And it was like school, So then I went and got my AA and my bachelor's, and now I'm finishing my master's. So I just didn't believe in myself because I was always hiding in that area of my life. It's kind of how that happened. But
that's a pretty big commitment to prove that you're not scared of something. There had to be more to it than that.
Yeah, man.
Talking about, I'm sure you use the GI Bill or whatever the feds gave you, but still, you're talking years of your life.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of the school dynamic it kind of went that way because of where my brain was at developmentally while I was in school, man. It was weird. Like I was in school, I didn't care. Like I just wanted to like talk with my friends, be a little boy, and like kick it and have fun. Now, well, I had a few experiences. When I got out of the Marine Corps at 21, got into private security, traveling the world, hit over 60 countries in my first 2 years.
Wow.
Just gigantic private security detail. And I'm sitting underneath the Eiffel Tower with my buddies, and I got a recon Marine, I got a Navy SEAL, I got a guy who's winning competitions, deadlift competitions, as one of the strongest men on the planet. Like I'm at this table with this pedigree of guys. And
men that win.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that are at the top of the 1% of the private security industry. And I just remember we were taking our orders, and they brought me a Coca-Cola, and it was like $20 for the Coca-Cola. Like I remember looking at the menu, and in francs it was $20 in dollars. And I just remember being like, what is going on in my life that we're paying this much to eat? And it's a nice place, whatever. But then, the little voice in my head was kind of like, yo, it's $20. Why are you tripping about $20? You're at a table with the guys. You guys are at the top of your game, and then I started to kind of think, what, my physical strength is taking me about as far as it can take me. Who has the power in this equation? And I thought about the reality that if any one of us goes down, we can be replaced within 24 hours and fly another tough guy out here.
Right.
Physical strength is local to my body. How do I acquire power? And I had this whole epiphany, and I was like, who's got all the power? The little kind of flamboyant dude who's back at the hotel at the suite right now that we're all working for, that's taking a nap, you know what I mean? Is kicking it because he's cultivated a different skill set. And so from that moment on, I started to realize that strength and power were two different things that came from two different places. And I believe that power actually comes from your ability to leverage internal strength, mindset, have the emotional intelligence to make the right decisions. And then physical strength is just local. So then I really just chose, hey, I'm going to invest in my mind and in my internal world as much as I've invested in my physical world, and see where I end up in the next 10 years. So that got me into the knowledge seeking.
How many years ago was that?
Man, I had to have been probably about like 21. I'm 33 now. So yeah, it was a little bit ago.
I got to interject one thing. So just so you know this, but I want to make sure the listeners know, guys that do what you're talking about, sitting at that table, many of them are hyper intellectual people. I've got a handful of friends like my buddy Z Von Durham. Z's a Green Beret, hyper intelligent dude. So it's not like, and I've got a friend that runs security for our governor, former Marine.
Yeah.
Watt guy for the state police. Super intelligent people. So it's not like you guys are just like,
yeah,
Coke.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely true. The guys that, a couple guys have written books, and these guys are for sure all winners, even in what they're doing right now.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you decided to go down that path of improving your inner self.
Yeah, man.
The part that's going to be there with you till the day you croak.
Yeah, yeah. I think the quality of your life depends on the quality of, one, the conversations you're having, but the quality of the decisions you're able to make. And so, you want to create a higher quality life for yourself. You've got to figure out how to make higher quality decisions. And those higher quality decisions are the result of higher quality information. And that is a maturation process that comes from, I think, the marrying of experience and also the knowledge, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of like, that's what sparked that journey. And then, the realization that, not everything that you read in a book is going to be pertinent or effective in your life. That only comes through trying to apply it,
Sure. As you were talking about that epiphany you had there, it made me think of a quote that I have upstairs in my office. It was from the Battle of Maldon, which was like Old English poem from like AD 1000. And the author, as he's writing, it's through the mind of an old warrior that understands that his might is lessening. And he said, where's it at here? There's a couple translations. I'm looking for a good one because it was written in like some old Gaelic or something.
Yeah.
Basically, he's saying as my mind, or as my body lessens, my heart and mind must grow stronger.
Yeah.
And like this balance had to take place. Otherwise, he's just going to be a broken old guy with nothing. And he understood that he had to offset this natural process.
Yeah.
Which wasn't exactly what you were talking about, but.
No, but I mean, it's something that, I've always considered, as I've lived on this earth, is that, and they talk about it in the beginning of, what's that Navy SEAL movie, man? There's it's going to come to me, but
I know what you're talking about. The one that they quote,
Tecumseh
Tecumseh. Yes.
But he talks about how his dad says, one thing I've always feared about getting old is, men won't look at me as being dangerous, and they just walk past you and, kind of understanding that dynamic's going to take place. And I was actually talking with my wife about this the other day, and I was kind of like, I think the game is to do something in your youth and in your vigor that is going to make a bed of respect and honor for you when your when your body inevitably starts to fail, and that entropy starts to kick in and decay starts to kick in, man.
I mean, that drags up a host of other questions. Like, is our motivation to be an old man where people look at you with reverence? I got an interesting story. I don't want to say who told me the story because he never gave me permission to tell it, but Band of Brothers, you remember the story, the Band of Brothers about the on the beaches in Normandy. So Bill, the guy that was like the wild man in that story that did all the killing, he's deceased, the great uncle of a friend of mine. And he says as a young man, great uncle Bill would be sitting there. He lost a leg and was a carpenter, tradesman after the war. He'd sit like at family picnics and stuff, just like back off on the edge of the party, just sitting in a wheelchair. I'm surmising, sipping a beer, smoking a cigarette, but just kind of like minding his own business. And the storyteller says one day he asks his dad, like, what the heck's up with this guy? And he's like, what's your uncle? And he's like, yeah, but he's like, he doesn't do anything. He just sits there. And he's like, go ask him. So Bill, over the course of like 20 years, as this boy grew, told him these stories about what they did. And some of it's horrific, like stuff that HBO never would put on TV because you'd look at these guys in a different way.
Yeah, but, I understand.
He told his great nephew the story of him finding out that his brother was killed by the Germans, like right before they took off to go fly in to get dropped in behind the lines. And that like switched his brain into I'm going to be this animal and just kill every mother effing German I see.
Yeah.
Long and the short of it was there's this dude that's this amazing war hero that now 80 years later movies are made about him, tales are told, but he sat at this party and nobody knew anything about what he had done, and he didn't need him to.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't need him to, and he didn't want it didn't satiate anything. You know, he must have inside knew like I'm capable of whatever I need, and that was enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Heck yeah, man. No, that's awesome stuff. I think that, and there's a whole bunch probably more to be said about that, you know, like being a closed circuit and being able to meet all of your own needs internally, you know, emotionally, and to be doing things for the right reasons. I think, and also having proven, you know, like I think a lot of the insecurities and like ego driven stuff we see in this world is because our world is so externally like aggressive. You know, we have a consumer driven world. And so we are told always to look outside of ourselves for validation. I think what's beautiful about the story you told and what I see in the eyes of, you know, guys that have been there and done that, and something that I believe I was fortunate enough to get out of the way is, you know, when you've done those deeds and you know who you are and you've worked for that identity, it's really not up to anyone else to take it from you or give it to you after that. And that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
There was some definite turning points in my life, no war stories, but challenges of overcoming self, where I started to like realize like he can't beat me. You know, I mean, maybe beat me on the mat or lift more weight than me or you know, run faster, but I don't care about any of that stuff. And like those things started to change the way that I viewed myself in the context of life. That's kind of one of the things we try to impart in young guys, like all the safety stuff and learning how to protect people with physical violence is one thing, but like understanding you don't have to because of how you carry yourself in the world, how you interact. You know, most of the time you don't need any of that physical violence. You know, like in your business, and you can comment on this, most people assume like a bodyguard is a guy that like smashes people's faces, and most of them are people that stop violence from happening to get their principle or principles away from violence. It's not like the movies.
Yeah,
right?
No, absolutely, man. Like the entire game is like no violence, deception, maneuvering around, prevention, theorizing and planning ways to cause things to just never even get started, you know, and then contingencies if things begin to get started, but we're not digging in and fighting anybody, you know? So, and really everything starts with us. Like, you know, the social dynamics are huge, you know, the planning is huge. The presentation and hard targeting is huge. Sometimes there is not really much of a presentation depending on your clientele, but yeah, man, that's good. I think young men face an equation that is, it's a bit complicated, you know, because my dad is like ultra macho. My dad got, here we go with the dad stories, right? No, man, the guy got
It tells a lot about what's in when you hear these stories.
It's very true. And I didn't grow up with my father, but then I go and I spend time with him and I'm like, oh my goodness, we're a lot alike. And I had no idea. I mean, one point in time, he got burnt on over 80% of his body. He was doing something with paint and kerosene in the Bahamas, and somehow he caught fire. He tells a story about having to wipe his skin off in order to get the fire off of him while he was in the shower trying to get it to go out. He got shot at point blank range with a shotgun during a hunting trip by one of his buddies, birdshot. And, you know, his buddy had to drag him through the jungle in the Bahamas to the hospital, was, you know, died a few times, but survives this thing. But this is like, he's still to this day a guy that, you know, I might shoot him instead of fighting him if we, you know what I mean? Like he's one of those guys. But so for me, I grow up with my mom. I go visit my dad every summer, and he's like, "Hey, like your mom's making you fat. You got to run 30 minutes on the treadmill, do 500 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and swim 100 laps before you can watch TV in the morning." So I say all that to say, for me, I did good in football, high school football, and different things like that. But I was like, how am I going to get my masculinity like, how am I going to do something to where I feel inside myself, that I don't have to like vie for people's validation of my masculinity. And that, for me, that drove me to the Marine Corps. That was my answer to that equation. It was like, look, I'm going to go to war. I'm going to fight these guys at age 18. And, I'm going to maintain my honor and hold my shield up in that phalanx and respect myself after this. And that was, I think it was a well worth it experience, man, because it helped me kind of check that box and let my ego relax a little bit, a lot of it.
I dig it. So you've got now this security company, as well as the work that you're doing, trying to pass on some of your life lessons. Do you, let me rephrase that. Is the life lesson stuff just you giving back to the world? Is it a business? Tell us about that. Tell us about the two different
life compartment.
Yeah.
I have really, it's still kind of taking shape, I guess one of my strongest values is contribution, so like if I'm there or if I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I just want to contribute on a level that's kind of like, Byron made his contribution, a big contribution. So with executive protection, I aim to really contribute something that hasn't been done within that industry, and so that's kind of what executive protection lifestyle, the brand, is turning into. The podcast, the live events that we're getting ready to have. We have the largest group in Facebook right now where guys can go to get work, ask question, find agents and things like that. So that's my contribution within.
Let's talk about that a little bit just before we get away with it. So guys that have some background, that are looking for some EVP work, they can connect with that group and kind of link up with various agencies or clients.
Yeah, kind of it's practitioner centric. So, guys that are just trying to get into the industry might be living in an area like, hey, where do I start? I'm in this state. You ask that question in that group, you're going to get about a dozen responses giving you information on what to do. You're looking for work. You're a free agent. Like you just got off a detail and you're like, yo, I'm in, this state and I'm a free agent. Is anyone looking for bodies? You're going to have a few guys that are going to respond to you. Send me your trash, send me your resume, send me your stuff, and we'll take a look at you. For guys, I've used it multiple times. You get that last minute, hey, I need 20 some guys, like by the end of the week, or,
right.
We need bodies. I'll go in the group and be like, hey, if you're interested, these are the specs on an operation I've got coming up, loose specs on it. And, so guys, those are kind of the mediums and modes that the group's being used for. It's like a marketplace for that. And then also information, hey, I'm looking at this problem. How can I deal with it? What are the state laws on this? And guys are having conversations around stuff like that. And, it's pretty, I feel real blessed to be able to have organized that, and that's going to evolve into, well, now we have the podcast for Executive Protection Lifestyle, where I'm interviewing, really any type of industry professional around that executive protection, personal protection, even stuff that's very civilian kind of, would be very good for civilians to know and understand, things about human trafficking, things about hard targeting,
Sure.
All that good stuff. And then, we're getting those live events where we have some of those speakers come out and do a lot of stuff there as well.
Tell me about that.
So basically, man, I don't want it to be just executive protection. I feel like there's a million guys out there teaching executive protection do's and don'ts. So the live events are going to be on subject matters around the stuff we do. So this very first one's going to be, Yosef Badu, he taught the Hunter Killer program for about 10 years in the Marine Corps, which is pre-threat indicators, left of bang stuff. His slogan is predicting people with his company emergence. And essentially it's, how can you tell if a person or a body of people mean to do you harm 1 or 2 seconds, 3, 4, 5 minutes before it starts, so you can get proactive and get into action, and stay left of bang, which is, if you look at an incident shooting on a linear chart on a timeline, you'll see there's the left side, which is the pre-threat, and then there's post-threat. So left of bang is, the spot we want to stay in.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, man. And then this next one, we're going to have Ed Calderon. He's like a 10-year senior federal agent who was out there working in Mexico.
I just was talking with Ed yesterday. Great.
He's a bad man. He's good to go. So that's going to be, hard targeting, traveling well, counter custody stuff, and thinking about adding maybe one more guy on for a 2-day event.
Cool.
But so that last piece is still in the darkness. But yeah, so that's going to happen in the next play. I'm going to aim like 3 months out or so. But yeah, man, making those types of contributions with that brand, and it's really doing good. The podcast is blowing up, and it's a blessing to be able to do that.
I dig it. The interesting thing I've seen in that business is the vast amount of guys jumping into it. Like, I've got friends that were, people throw around the term tier 1. They were legit tier 1, dev grew operators, and they have a hard time getting work.
Yeah.
And then there's guys I know that were like a cop in like Nowhereville that are busier than snot. And it's like you said, relationships. They know the right people. They can sell the product. They know how to communicate with the client in a manner that is apparently pleasing to the client. Yeah. And these dudes are like, well, what the heck, man? I've been all over the globe and killed every manner of bad man.
Yeah.
You scare that lady, apparently, like maybe you should shave your dirty beard. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a very interesting industry. Sometimes it's the most unfair industry. You know what I mean? Because I've seen things happen. I've seen some crazy things happen naturally, but it has a lot to do with, the social dynamics of the game, man. What civilians value and what they think is good and what they want to have around isn't always what us warriors value. And I think a lot of what stifles our military guys, my military guys that come in, my brothers, is being able to honor the civilian value system and validate that value system enough to be effective in that world. And so
talk about that a little bit. So just XYZ customer, potential client hooks up with you, and they need some people to guard their home and take them on vacation and make sure their wealthy family and children are protected from creeps. How or what does it look like where they're valuing the wrong thing?
So this is how it'll go. They'll look at, if we show them resumes and things like that, or when we market the guys to them, you say like Navy SEAL, Special Forces, XYZ, they're going to be like, ping, cool. But then on the back end of that, I've got to have military professionals who have the social dynamics to be like in the car with these folks and navigate this encounter without making themselves, without being uncouth. I had one guy say to a client, when the client offered him some salad, he said, "I don't eat rabbit food." And I was like, I love you, bro, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing an interview against this guy and he was, obviously I won, but, and so, sometimes as military guys, like we can be very rigid and we can be kind of like intense. Whereas the game of executive protection is like, as much as it can be difficult to stomach, a lot of it is seatbelt security. A lot of it is, how can I value this person's comfort and keep them as safe as possible while keeping them as comfortable as possible. You know, with a military mindset, you want to be like, kibosh, no way, you know, we're doing it this way, one arm's distance. I don't carry bags. You know what I mean? And like, if you know, or you want to talk about your different views or, you know, freedom and America, and there's just a number of different things like that that stifle us. And like, I go into a house with 90% of these dudes, but are they able to blend with, you know, not just your average American family, but, you know, a family that has gotten everything they've ever wanted for the most part, doesn't hear no, and is like, there's a certain amount of finesse there. Then you got gatekeepers around that family that know how valuable that family is, and they're all looking at you, scrutinizing you, getting insecure about you becoming the new favorite because you are the new shiny thing. You're the flavor of the month for this month, you know, so they're looking for ways to take shots at you. So I'm writing a book called Social Dynamics of Executive Protection, where I'm talking about all this stuff, man, because it is the social dynamics. That is what ends most guys' career. That's where guys lose. Social dynamics, 100%, in my opinion. It's not getting in a shootout. Your sub-second draw is cool, really cool. I want to have one. But that's not what's going to make you a successful executive protection agent.
That'd be an interesting read.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I've had a handful of friends that were Secret Service guys, and they all left because they said it was the most boring thing that they like. A friend of mine that I don't want to say too much about him because I don't want to talk about him, but he recon Marine and then came back and ended up with Secret Service for a while. And he's like, dude, we didn't even shoot guns. He's like, we didn't shoot guns. He's like, we literally like go to the range like every 6 months and shoot like a box of ammo. He's like, these guys will. And I don't want to speak for like the whole Secret Service. This was just his story. I'm sure there's many like hyper trained dudes, but he's like, it was just to come from a guy that was like super high speed. He's like, I literally like was like cleaning lint off my socks trying to find shit to do. I was just so in my mind, you know, sitting in hallways of a hotel. So like, I think the general public has like an misconception of like what that job entails and what. I've got a friend right now that's at a wealthy person's home in a neighboring state, and we're FaceTiming the other day, and he's like 13 hours in the car, you know, eating candy and drinking coffee and like out of his freaking mind. He's got a kid at home, wife, and you know, he's making good money to do it, but I don't think people understand. And then, God forbid, his service actually.
Yeah, man, it can be. You got to have the right mindset for it, man, because you get a guy who's high drive, ultra special SF, and you know it's like you toss him a car seat, like, you know, like, and you're like, yo, I need you to get this car seat in the car. Client's coming down in 5 minutes, like. This is EP, you know, it's sitting in the right place on the private jet so that you don't upset the clients, or then, you know, you don't talk too much at the wrong time. You know, like people always want to be on the client, but if you're too close to the client, it increases the probability that you're going to say something stupid or do something stupid and get yourself axed. You know what I mean? Then there's all the downtime of like, you know, spending holidays sitting in a car outside of someone's house and, you know, just hurry up and wait and all that stuff happening. You know, you do have to be like, complacency will kill you in this job, you know, and it'll cause you to think that nothing bad will ever happen. So you have to play the mind game of what if, where am I going next? All day long, man. And really try to resurrect that dead time, you know, cause the routine is what kills guys and causes them to make mistakes 100%. But on your point, yeah, man, it's not this like ultra high speed life, you know, it's a life where you've got to be psychologically diligent not to become heinous. It's awesome in that you get access to things that people don't have access to. I've been to, you know, 70 countries probably. And 60 some of those happened in the first 2 years. And I did that on repeat for 7 years. So I've gotten to see the world from a billionaire's perspective. You know, you're backstage at all these things that people got, you know, that want to go to. You're flying in all these, you know, you're doing all these, like the access has been an amazing blessing to my life. But at the same time, if that gets to your head, if you can't remain humble in that game, you are not going to be in that game very long. If you start
Yeah.
thinking that, has anything to do with you, like you're not your client. You know what I mean? Like,
I've actually got a buddy that I think sometimes that is how he'll send us a photo from Dubai,
yeah,
80 floors up, and his demeanor is like, "Bah, nah, nah, nah." And it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
dude, that ain't your dough. Like, you're the, no offense to you,
You're
but
the
like,
help, bro.
you're the hired help, man. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're the valet in a sense, but
Yeah. Different
like,
service, but yeah,
yeah,
man.
you didn't write the check for the $80,000 fuel bill for the jet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. The comment about seeing the world, though, if somebody's got a mindset that they can do that, and you want to be able to travel around, I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And you're around people that you're gonna. One of my friends that does this has learned so much about business because the guys he's working around are all top level business people, and you probably know, you form relationships, and these guys are. It's rubbing off on him, birds of a feather, and so he's not thinking. My dad used to use the term lack thoughts, like thinking from a mindset of like not having enough. Like one of these days I'm going to have enough to, maybe go on a vacation. He's with people that those kinds of thoughts don't exist. You figure it out, you make it happen, and which is interesting.
That's awesome.
Side note, so many of my friends that did these amazing things with their bodies to become SEALs and Green Berets and Rangers and Marines and all this stuff. So many of them, it's like, dude, don't you see, like you did like this thing that like a fraction of society, a fraction of a % of society has the ability to endure physically and mentally. Like you can do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
But many of these guys are still like eating Kellogg's for breakfast because nothing wrong with that, but they're like they don't realize that they can break out of other molds that they built in themselves. What do you think about that?
That's huge for me. So I wrote a book called Finding Meaning After the Military. And it's just all about exactly what you're talking about, getting out and being able to, really, it's a book about transition. So any transition in life, but getting out and being able to translate the skills that we have in the military into what I believe is absolutely necessary for a warrior out here in the 1st Civilian Division, the 1st Civ Div, which is finding your new fight. Because to a warrior, if you can't find your new fight, what I believe happens and what I believe contributes heavily to the suicide numbers that we experience in America, even the 22 a day, arguably, anything near that number, is what I call the atrophy of identity, which is when we get out, and it's like, yeah, I know I was a squad leader in the infantry, and I know I had my squad of dudes, and I was over, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And, we killed these lions and tigers and bears and bad guys and did all these crazy things. We didn't really kill lions and tigers for all you animal lovers, but what I mean? Like we slayed the dragons and, our metal got tested and all this stuff. But now you get out in the 1st Civilian Division and it's like, you're telling your war stories. No one really cares. Okay. They care, but like, what I mean? Like, let's get you in the now right now. You know what I mean? So, your buddies aren't there anymore. So you're losing support systems that have been crucial to you. And so for the first time in your life, you realize like no one ever has your back, and you're this warrior, this strong person, but your life now is out of alignment and it does not have the outpicturing of the greatness that is inside. You start drinking, you're looking for escapes, you're looking for ways to change your state. You don't know what the purpose of your life is. What do we do with things we don't know what the purpose is for them? You find something in your house on a table. Hey, honey, what's this thing? I don't know. Maybe you save it. Probably you throw it away. You put it somewhere. You don't see the value in it because you don't see the purpose in it. And then, we forget to leverage the fact that we've been through so many different amazing things, and we have all these internal skills of determination, discipline, resilience to access, to help us get into that new fight. So we don't use our tools because we don't ever find the new fight. And then you're drinking, you're gaining weight, you're doing all these negative things. And I think the warrior that once was forged in battle and was required by your environment, I think that warrior dies long before these guys take their lives, man. And I hate it because I see it happening slowly sometimes. And I'm just like, dude, you need to, all these stories you're talking about how you used to be, you need to find all that and you need to leverage it into something now. And don't despise small beginnings. It doesn't matter if it's stickers. You're into stickers. Start something around that.
Again, don't despise small beginnings.
Yeah, man. Like, don't despise small beginnings and have the balls to figure out what it is you love and go after it. You know what I mean? Like, where I'm at now with regards to social media, building this brand and having the validation and gratification of being able to bring something into reality that I love was almost, it was unfathomable, 5-10 years ago, like that I would even be close to what I'm doing now in this, digital world and for my industry, dude. But I had the balls to be like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I like social media and I like shooting and, I'm going to put my video up here and, you know what? I have something I want to say. I don't think anyone's going to listen, but you know what? I'm going to blog and, there may be one dude will see a video and be like, yo, you know what? Thanks. So I'm going to shoot this stupid video in my car and try to encourage somebody, you know what I mean? And like, no one would watch it. 3-4 people would watch it. You know what I mean? And I did that for years, and now it's turning into something that is building momentum. And whether I never make any money doing it, I found something that is so validating and fulfilling to me that it increases the quality of my life so much that it's not about the money. It's about the contribution solely, and it adds a balance and everything to my life that makes all that I do in a workday so much more like worth it, because it funds these things that I'm into.
Sure. And so I 100% to relate to what you just said about
that's awesome.
The what I get out of it, the process of you sitting there in your car, putting out videos that you're comically demeaning right now. I know that they were not just stupid videos, but you in that process, you were honing skills, man. You're the kid out at night on the basketball court shooting free throws like Michael Jordan did alone. You're the artist alone in their loft painting garbage, but figuring out which brush and which, color and all that shit. That's the part I think your humble beginnings. What was the phrase that you used? Little, small?
Yeah, don't despise small beginnings, man. Just if you have the love and passionate, go fight for it.
Yeah, nobody starts as not nobody, but almost never does somebody just begin as the champion of business or the MVP of a sports team. They started out kicking and scratching and gouging and fighting their way. I watch these specials on Netflix, and I just watched one with Ray Romano. He's a comedian, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody loves Ray. I don't even like TV, but I'm like, I'll see what this is about. And it's him 3 years later, he goes back to the comedy club that as a young dude, he would go play in. And he tells a little story, and he's like, years ago, I couldn't ever imagine that I'd have a TV show and all this stuff. And he's a dude living hand to mouth, going and sitting in this little dive bar in New York and paid his dues, did it over and over and over and over. And never thought that he'd be rich or famous, but somebody saw him and, one thing leads to another, and that's kind of how it works. But the not despising the small beginnings, I think, is huge. We almost have to cherish those beginnings.
Yeah.
Take pleasure and pride in them.
Yeah, man. There's a lot to be said for the beauty of being a beginner and having no pressure. There's no one there. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, no one, I can be stupid. I can make mistakes, in the competitive shooting game, the first year was awesome. It was I'm just starting, there's less accountability. You're allowed ignorance, it's a beautiful thing. Once you get good at something and everyone's starting to look at you, well, then you better be good at it. You know what I mean?
You shoot USPSA?
Yeah. USPSA is my primary, but yeah, man, I also, with the despising small beginnings, I think that's what stops a lot of guys is they're like, oh, I could never, do this or that, or that's not cool enough to blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like that fat black kid that was like scared growing up, looking at him like, dang it, man. Like I'm so glad I believed and I was willing to go and step in the gap and like, and apply myself, and like, I'm looking at the momentum that I have in my life now that is so validating. And I'm like, man, like you kind of just need to go start failing, because that's part of the whole you need to get punched in the face and realize you're not so fragile. And then in there, you'll find out if you love it, you'll find out what it's all about, what you're all about, if it's worth it. If this isn't worth it, good. That means one more thing that's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like breaking up with the ex that like sucked. It's like, what? I used to think I wanted this type of female in my life or whatever. Now I know I don't. I can make a better, more well-informed decision. And so like, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. You need to start doing that. And then this evolutionary process takes place, and it's about who we're becoming in life. And you only get what's in alignment with who you are and what you've become. I think life is very fair in that way in a lot of instances. We can't outperform our paradigms and our beliefs and our abilities to make quality decisions, I don't think.
Man, ain't that the truth? Life, I think, is pretty darn fair.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely people, I've met folks that are born with great physical handicaps, limitations, or born with abusive or violent homes, and that stuff all sucks. But for the most part, I think by and large, we get exactly what we deserve.
Yeah. In that way, life is fair. We get what we deserve. You know what I mean? Like, we have lordship over our lives. Like, I believe nature and nurture play a part, but I genuinely believe that at a certain age, it's choice over everything.
Especially in the United States.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Especially in the United States, man. Like, you want a higher quality life, you just got to figure out how to make higher quality decisions. And that's like, that's kind of the game.
I've got a friend, black dude. His name's John. He's got to be pushing 65, 70 now. I met him as a teenager. He was a member of my folks' church. Freaking awesome human being. And he came from the deep South. Like, he taught me what chitlins were and all kinds of good soul food. I'd go to their house on Sundays. And he moved out here from California where he was working. But his family, man, they didn't have nothing. And this guy ended up as a engineer for Northrop Grumman on like some like super secret high tech missile stuff that you got to be like a 5-time PhD and super genius. And this guy, for fun, like on the weekends, we'd go to the movies, we'd go bowling. They didn't know a lot of people here, and he was just like a super cool dude. But his whole family, like, he broke it. That was my point. He broke he broke the mold of what was handed to him. His family worked in menial jobs. Nothing wrong with that. But he said, that's not what I'm going to do. And, rose to this station in life where he's designing, these super high-tech systems and missiles on U.S. fighter jets.
Man.
Like, badass education, even though his family didn't have money to send him to school. He got the grades to get the scholarship. And he was like the most humble guy you'd ever meet. And speaking of him, I got to give him a call. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but he'd tell you, man, like, I'm like, how do you get a job doing that? Well, I decided I wanted to do it, so I just figured out what I had to do to, get there. And then I went and did it.
Get that equation figured out, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to identify why we don't have shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, being on your purpose and having something that you're passionate about, something you love, it adds gravity, man. Like, I have a client get rude with me. Like, I really just like, I won't say I won't care, but like, it is a much smaller component to my reality. I get someone like Starbucks chick or somebody is, because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as, certain boundaries aren't broken and I'm getting what I need out of the relationship, say it is a paycheck or my drink or whatever, like, I've got bigger fish to fry. Like, I'm excited about what I'm doing and it adds gravity. being passionate and having a purpose, it adds boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really drink or do any of that stuff. Why? Not because I'm too good over it, or not because even like, me trying to be a Christian. No, I don't do it because, I can't be off sometimes for months at a time, man. Like, I've got to build my business. I've got to build my brand. I've got to, get through my studies. Like, I just can't allow my brain to take a break for that period of time. Sure. I don't really watch TV because the quality of the information that's coming into my brain, it's like intellectual dessert. Like,
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I finally, it like dawned on me one day while I was surfing through, you got Netflix and Amazon Prime and all this crap. I'm surfing for something to watch, and I'm like looking at these millions of possibilities. And I'm like, I do like documentaries. So like at night, I watch like a documentary on like, Greek history or whatever. And I'm like, most of the entertainment.
That's still higher quality information than the entertainment is, though, too.
Yeah. But most of the entertainment stuff is like, I'm thinking to myself, this is just somebody else's reality. It's their dream. It's their goal to make me forget mine. Like,
wow.
And mine doesn't suck. So like you said, I don't want to forget it. I don't want to be like numb to what is.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And that's that reality creation. Like, that took a degree of deliberation and purposefulness and hard work. And it's something that, you've created that, like, you can recreate if you had to, and no one can really take it from you. You know what I mean? And it's like this ever evolving, like, it's almost like finding the love of your life, in my opinion. It's like in a man, there's like two loves. There's like whatever romantic love, possibly, maybe. I don't know if that really exists, but I do know. No, my wife, I'm happily married. No. Yeah, I know, right? No, it's awesome. Like, there's a romantic love aspect of a man, and then there's this professional or empiristic or conquestial, if those words exist, love, I believe, as well, that has to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, man. Marcus Aurelius talked about that.
Yeah, he put something down on that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I have to look that up, man.
I mean, it wasn't the love of a woman or love of business, but he talked about a man's need to like build build that empire.
Yeah, man. And it really does. Like you're saying, like, I wake up in the morning and I'm tired for the first couple minutes, and then it's like, yo, I get to go do this. Yeah. I mean, like, I get to go hammer this. I got to do this, and boom, boom, boom. I got our podcast. It's cool. It's exciting, and overnight success takes 10 years. That's the other thing that people, I think people forget. And the reality of that, though, is don't look at the end result. Don't like sit there and be like, oh man, it's so long, far away. The reality is, if you love what you're doing, that journey is going to be awesome. That journey. Yeah, just the first step, man. That journey is going to be worth everything.
What kind of advice it could be a vet that needs to find that fight again, like you're talking about. But I think maybe if we make that broader, I have a lot of one-on-one discussions after class with guys that will call or email, because we talk about these things in our classes. Not to sell my stuff here, but we teach shooting and martial skills for protection, but probably a good bit of the stuff we cover is the topics we're talking about, because I feel like that should be developed alongside the martial skills. So guys will call me and they're like, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how to find the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what my thing is. What do you say to that?
Man, self-awareness is key, but honestly, just start something. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive. You're like, what if I waste time? And you need to step into a process of learning yourself. And that is only going to happen through action. You need to start dating in order to begin figuring out who you really do like and who you don't like. Right. You have an idea. Like, I like this type of female or male or whatever you're into. But then what ends up happening is you get it and you realize you liked that out of maybe your ignorance, maybe out of your lack of experience. You didn't have enough experiential information to make a really high quality decision. You know what I mean? And so really what I believe that is obviously you're going to deal with the fear of beginning, which is essentially like, am I good enough? I don't know if I'm good enough or not. I'm probably going to and the reality is you're probably like not really good at anything, and you need to just start sucking at something to get good at it. And that's just the reality. I need to go to the gym and not be able to lift any weight before I can ever get strong. Like, this is the process. It's like gravity. I have to be that guy for a while. And the key to that is just like, I think I like this. I'm going to court this thing and I'm going to hammer on it. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to mess around with it. I'm going to get punched in the face by it a few times and see if I love it enough to keep on fighting. And then what really ends up happening is, in my opinion, is on this journey, you court all these little purposes, that you think are so the end game. You swear that this thing, this idea, or this hobby, or whatever it is the most bestest amazing thing. But what I think happens is there's a synergy that comes from all of these previous experiences and relationships with things that you have loved over the years as you have evolved as a person, that culminates into the overall thing that is like another huge bit of chapters in your life. And I think as you evolve, so does your purpose, until you eventually arrive at your destiny. And your destiny will be the culmination of all these purposeful things you've created. Like, there'll be the podcast to mix with the events and, the brand and these contributions, that hopefully, validate this time that you had here, and if you don't do this, you're just going to simply wait for fate, which is what happens to those of us who I believe don't get into action. It's just your fate.
You get what you deserve.
And then you get what you deserve, man. Oh, man.
It's true, though, ain't it?
So it's true, man. Like, happy endings are for, like I said in my video yesterday, happy endings are for Hollywood, man. They're for Hollywood. Everything in this game is moving towards extinction and entropy. And if you want to get into the higher quality, better portions and more validating parts of this life, progress. I think everything here is really driven by progress in a lot of ways. And you got to get into that flow. Otherwise, stagnation, everything is in either progress or stagnation, protection or growth mode. If we get into like epigenetics and get into like biology, like, you're either in protection or growth, which really, in my opinion, is faith or fear. Your actions are either being dictated by faith or fear. And then that gets into a whole thing of like, fear isn't necessarily always bad. It's how you're using it, like,
man.
Like, there's so much there, man. I love this stuff.
I kind of break that down in my head to fear begets fear, courage begets courage, action begets more action, right? Like, once you take a bite, you want more. Where you understand you can, anxiety begets more anxiety until you decide, I'm going to have some courage and face my anxiety, right? And it's like it's like this push and pull of our actions, and we get into these cycles of lifting weights. When you lift weights, strength begets strength, right? And if I sit on the couch, laziness and apathy begets more of the same, and now you've got no juice and no muscles. You got like the impetus is thought for all of it, right? You got to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree 100%. Thought, and then kind of your will, your ability to get yourself to do it. For me, I think like I approached motivation in a few different ways. Like, one, think about when you were totally digging on whatever female or male, like romantically, when you're motivated, dude, to get that romantic fix, you'll do anything. Like, there's
right.
You will part heaven and earth. You'll come back with like, what was it? The ears and tongues of a couple hundred Philistines. You know what I mean? Like, you'll do whatever trash you got to do. And so I think we forget that state. And I think that same principle translates into, when you do find something that you really love and are passionate about, possibly, but you have to build that. It's like you have to court that, I believe. But also for me, what motivates me is a few things. Like, I allow myself to be scared of the reality of what I can become if I do not control myself. I don't want to lose my honor. And this isn't like, this is an everyday thing. Yeah. I mean, like, this isn't like, no, this is the way, that I really look at life. Like, I don't want to lose, what I've worked for. I know that there's a lesser version of me. There's a fat, nasty, lazy, irresponsible version of me chasing me. Yeah. I mean, every day. Dude.
Right.
And yesterday I had these 2 chocolate chip cookies, man. I was with this client. We're at this event and they were looking good. You know what I mean? And he got a couple in, and, I'm right now, I'm doing my intermittent fasting and I'm holding off, trying to fight him back, and that dude's real and he'll end me. If I allow myself to be near certain temptations, that dude's real and he will end me. I will fall, And so, there's that push-pull motivation. So I'm running from what I don't want to become all the time. And I allow myself to fear that because it's real. And if I turn my back on that reality, I believe that's when arrogance is inaccurate confidence, in my opinion. And, you start thinking you're better than you are and you're untouchable. And then pride comes before a fall. You can't see because you're being inaccurate. Now, confidence is proven. I know I can do this. There's no need for me to be cocky. This is genuine, accurate understanding of my ability, and then simultaneously I'm running towards what I want to become and what I want to build. And essentially my monument to say, thank you for the opportunity to live in this life, and not letting this grace that is this miracle of life that no one knows really what it is be in vain. You know what I mean? To just honor the fact that a million different outcomes could have happened when I was in the womb. You know what I mean? How many sperms do we all have to beat out to even get here right now? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's just, can we just, like, I got to make the most of this. It'd be the biggest tragedy in the world if we didn't. And so, yeah, I'm like, it's like a push-pull motivation is what I use. I'm running from what I don't want to become, letting down my friends, families, failing, and then I'm running towards what I want to create. And that seems to really get the job done for me in terms of staying consistently in positive action.
I dig that, man. That's a nice way of looking at it. Your comment about beating out a million other sperm and such. I think even if somebody doesn't believe as we do in Divine Creator, you cannot look at the
reality of this
fragility and how we come to be. Even if we do evolve from dirt, and that's the way it works. The fact that I evolved and, like you said, one sperm out of my father beat a gazillion others, right? And then didn't die in my mother's womb, didn't die of a childhood illness, didn't get run over by a car or on my bike, and here I am. Like, that is defying the odds of the universe. Right. That the spark of life lives inside of us as individuals. Like you said, man, like, what do you want that spark to be? Is that you want to be a turd that soaks up Netflix all day and cheap beers, or do you want
that's what you're here to do?
I get that's an interesting discussion. The more I've thought about that, remember the judge from Caddyshack? Remember that movie?
Not really.
So there's a judge. He's kind of a jagoff, and his character is that he's this like rich, rude guy that works at the country club, and they're doing a competition for one of the caddies at the country club. This is like one of the most famous movies of the 80s, man.
Okay.
A caddie's going to win a college scholarship. So one of the caddies is talking the judge up, and he really wants this scholarship. And the judge looks at him and says, the world needs ditch diggers too, and basically telling this guy, like, you're not getting the scholarship and you're going to be a bum. But there's truth in that. Like, some people are not going to be the champion of the business or whatever. And like, if your brain doesn't, the things we're talking about, I think the people that are listening to our conversation for the most part, in some way, shape, or form, are tuned into this. Like, I don't watch podcasts on how to apply makeup. It doesn't register with me. But I think there's plenty of people that would listen to this and be like, what the hell are these dudes jaw-jacking about?
Right. And
in that, like, either they're not ready for this discussion, or like the world needs ditch diggers too. Is that, I mean, it's kind of a mean thing to say, but I don't think everybody can be you. Not everybody can create businesses from scratch. Not everybody can write books. They have the potential to. But not everybody, by the laws of nature, not every bear is the biggest bear. Not every cheetah is the fastest cheetah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, man. And I I don't know, man. Like I know everyone has the potential, and I feel like we're just at different places on our journey. We have different values, you know. Like some of us just don't value that trash. Like I have one of my best friends. He just likes to chill. Like he wants to chill. Like he's here, and but he has certain things and aspects in his life where he does implement these principles, you know, in like jujitsu and different places where like, you know, I see like what I try to do in other areas. He does them in his own areas.
Gotcha.
But and the world does need, you know, the masses to do what the masses do. And I would even go farther to say there ain't nothing wrong with it. And good on you if you're happy with as long as you're happy where you're at genuinely. I respect your gangster straight up. You know what I mean? Because being like how I am, it's lonely, which you learn to love actually, but it is lonely. Affection is reserved for peers. So my circle is ultra small. My friends understand that I don't really kick it. Like I'm working or I'm working on, and there are times when like I hang out, but like my friends and family right now at this phase of life, man, I'm getting after it. You know what I mean? And so like there are pluses and minuses to both types and both approaches to living your life. So I think as long as a person's genuinely happy with where they're at and what they're doing, I respect their gangster. It's when I see in their eyes that they've been blessed and cursed with the thing that I have, which is hunger.
I was about the word that was right in my tongue. Yep.
Yeah, man. When I see that little bit of like that little hunger in there, and then I'm like, oh, I understand, because I would be tormented, and I would probably have tapped out if I hadn't had the balls to be like, yo, I need to find I need to, all right. Like Iraq was Iraq, you know, I cannot be that vet talking about the good old days and not having anything to show for all of my time since then. I'll kill myself. You know what I mean? Like, because I have this thing inside me that's just like, Byron, you have to contribute, dude. Like you have to, you know, you have to do this. Like this is a way of life, you know?
There were times, you probably can relate to this in some way, not like a bitch or a baby, but I would have tears running down my face with my guts would be in a knot. Like, it's like, what am I supposed to do? This wasn't me like crying out to God, but it was like in my head, like, you know, like I just can't like figure out where to apply this hunger. Like, what do I eat? What will satiate it? And I tried all kinds of different things, and that was, many of them I was successful at in some way, shape, or form. But the thing would be like, this don't do it, not one bit. And I mean, I've had jobs where I made more money. I've had appointments as a leader of various organizations.
Yeah,
it's like that doesn't mean anything to me. And like, this is it for me as well. Like people ask, like, why do you do that? And it's like, man, if you get like a message from some dude telling me that we touched him in a meaningful or positive way, and his dad didn't do that, and his coworker and his wife, and it's not like because we're special, you or I, but you said it in a way that dude could understand it. Like, that's the world to me. Because if he's not sitting bawling his eyes out in his truck because he can't figure out what's up, like, then if we can add that, that's magic to me.
Right? Magic. That's exactly what it is, man. And I dig it. It's 100%. Like, that's the magic, man. That's the stuff, is just making that contribution. And, you know, honoring, like, you know, like, I wasn't given the things I was given, or I haven't cultivated the things I've cultivated for me. You know what I mean? Like, I thank God that I have the strength, and I was born with my 10 hands and my 10 whatevers, but like, you know, I'm going to make the strength matter, you know, like, I'm strong so that other people can be protected. I'm strong so that I can contribute. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't know how else to say it, but it's like, you know, I'm not going to let this be like, oh, you know, Byron was a pretty cool dude. And, you know, he like was like, you know, it's like, I really want to be able to, and I feel like this is something that's in a lot of guys' hearts, but I want to be able to, for it to not be for nothing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when I have a guy hit me back and he's like, "Hey man, that was awesome. You know, the stuff you caused me to think about today was awesome. Male, female, whoever it is. Um, like you said, man, magic. That's what it is. It's the most validating and it's an awesome thing. And also with those other things too, like, yeah, like I've been in positions where I've had these other victories that other people would really want and desire and are very highly sought after. But it just was another relationship on like in the process of courting, you know, what my purpose was turning into as I evolved, you know, because I loved each one of those, you know, like I was like, yo, this is my new target. I'm get here. And then, you know, I get intimate with this experience and this purpose. And I'm like, okay, well, now I've become this and I've enveloped this. And now it's kind of like, it's time for something else. You know, it's a very interesting dance, man.
That used to tear me up.
Yeah, it's like a small death. It can be like a small death, actually.
Yeah, well, I would think like, man, I'm an idiot. Like I have this thing that's valuable, and I'm like, am I just like, is there? It made me think there was something wrong with me for a long time.
Like, can I not be pleased?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, even like people in my life that were close to me say like, you just can't be happy, and I'd be like, no, you don't get it, and then I would question my own self. You know, like, is there something wrong with me? Am I like a brat? Am I, you know what I'm saying? No.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and then your energy spent on that internal dialogue. I finally had to come to a point of self-acceptance where it was like, no, I love myself enough that I'm recognizing that's not the ultimate use of my trajectory of life. So
yeah, who you are.
Yeah.
I think too, the ultimate game begins to be, for me, it begins to be being able to be 100% authentic.
Oh man, I love
that. Right?
Yeah. You're my dude now.
Because I was talking about this trash this morning on one of my videos. I think is because Bruce Lee came on the mic. So when I work out, I listen to this playlist of like 500 motivational speakers with like epic music, like motivational videos. If you Google it's just awesome, dude. And like you'll have like a Tony Robbins or you know, a CEO of some huge company talking, and like they're talking about their mindset and their paradigm. And like the way I look at it is like I can tell the measure of man you are by the measure of your problems, you know. So you know, something that might knock you off your rocker, knock you off balance, tells me a lot about you, your paradigm, your character. And so the way I look at it is higher quality information, higher quality decisions. I'm absorbing information from these people who are on a much higher level than me. I also don't listen to pop culture, like any music that probably came out in the last like 5-10 years.
Me neither.
I like to think my own thoughts. So I sit here and I listen to these guys. It's high quality information, highly motivational. And, you know, that's kind of like one of the ways that I kind of really contribute to a paradigm to get to where I was going. But I got distracted on that. What did you say before that?
We're talking about, well, the point I was just writing down was your quote, I can tell the measure of a man by the measure of his problems. And you were at the gym listening to motivational speakers. We were talking about, you brought up that you want to be authentic. You want to approach it in an authentic way.
So in that array of videos that you can also find on my YouTube channel, the Bruce Lee is there, and he says something along the lines of, you know, to express yourself honestly, you know, not lying to yourself. And that like, yeah, man. And that like sparked this whole chain of thoughts. And like, I'm kind of at like this place where it's like, you know, I've had people tell me I'm crazy. I've had people tell me like, this is never going to work. You're too young. All try to superimpose all of their doubts on me so many times. It's like boring now. You know what I mean? And I've,
which is why I don't really tell anybody what I'm up to.
Yeah. You know, because it has to go through it washes through their system before they come back and give you the information that they think about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, there's people I respect and like will bounce things off of. But really, I got to go on my own journey anyways. You know what I mean? But this whole thing of being able to be authentic and being able to find a way to respectfully communicate what you believe and also do what it is your heart is telling you to do, heart, mind, I don't know what it is, but there's some intelligence in there that's telling you to do something. And it's going to be the thing probably you should be a little scared of it. But also it's also a thing that it has to do with your greatness. And being able to live a life in alignment with that, I think is a sign of really kind of maturity and being self-actualized. I think it's like one of the most the largest, like biggest indicators to me that a person is really, really kind of self-actualized is just being like, this is what I really believe. This is why. And then going ahead and doing it. Because it's mortifying and it's beautiful. Yeah. It's all these things.
I've got a lot of musicians in my family. One of my sisters is a great singer-songwriter. Her name's Karen. And she'll write a song and she'll sit and play it. And you can tell when she writes one to sell versus writes one that's in her guts. And, you feel like tears welling up, not because the song's like, so beautiful or amazing, but like, that was you. You just literally showed me you. Like, and it's again like one of those kind of magical things for me. Like when a person does that, like our conversation, I watch your face animate and you smile. Like it's not bullshit. It's not contrived. Like buy now or here's this. But wait, there's more. Like it's something that resonates with your guts. When we're authentic like that, the world as a whole craves it because we're told to. I got a buddy who owns a company and he's super successful, but he wants everybody to think he's more successful than he is. And so he like puts on a front like they're this huge corporation. And it's like, we are a big corporation. You've got like 50 employees. You started from scratch. But I want people to think that I'm like, this like global. Why, man? Like, when will that be enough? Like, then are you going to be like, are you going to have to tell people you've got a factory on Mars? Like, when's it enough?
Yeah. Well, and it loses its resonance because I believe there's something, I think people in general they're all psychologists and they're detective. They have a detection system and authenticity carries a frequency. I personally believe like when someone's being genuine and authentic, it is the most powerful thing that they can do. And when people aren't, you don't know why, but just, something just doesn't really, it's not moving. It's not moving.
I'm with you. Yeah.
And
I think to me that's all based on back to what we were talking about, like fear. We don't want we don't want to go to the match and look like an idiot. We don't want to go to the jujitsu gym and get choked out and look like we're not a man. We don't want to be authentic because we're afraid people might not like what they see. So then we have to like create this what we think. And the silly thing is the person that's judging us is doing the same damn thing.
Yeah, if they're even judging you. 9 times out of 10, they're so worried about themselves.
Excuse me,
You're not even significant enough,
Right.
They're like, oh, no, it's my turn next. And, I hope I don't look like an idiot. That's what they're thinking,
Excuse me. I wonder if we're able to measure calories of all the thought energy we burn having these, pardon my French, I call them mental circle jerks, where we're like that, where instead if we just thought like, hey, I'm happy to be here, I'm going to give the presentation or whatever it is and have a good time doing it versus the whole tornado of bullshit in our head.
Yeah, man. No, I guarantee it'd be a lot of calories burned.
Keeping us trim though.
Right. Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this conversation, man. We just talked for almost an hour and a half like it was nothing.
Right.
How do people find you?
So right now, my website, ByronRogers.com, Rogers with a D, or Byron Rogers Motivation, both of them same place.
Spell the whole thing out, will you? ByronRodgers is where you can find most everything. I have another website, ExecutiveProtectionLifestyle.com. And then
My website for my business is Bravo Research Group. And you can find me on social media, Instagram, Byron_Rogers, Executive Protection Lifestyle as well, with underscores in between the words. And then let's see, that's the bulk of what I'm up to. I'm also on.
And you're on your YouTube?
Oh, also Byron_Rogers on YouTube. You can find all of it from my website though, ByronRogers.com. But yeah, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram is kind of where I live. I do have a Twitter account, but I usually just push stuff, cross-pollinate out to Twitter.
Sure.
And then I'm also on LinkedIn and stuff too.
Super cool. I really appreciate you chatting. It was great to get to know you a little bit, and you've got a wonderful world outlook, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to continue to kick butt in your chosen endeavors.
No, thanks so much. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here and have this is the type of conversation I live for, to have such an in-depth, conversation with all the different components. And I love this. I hate small talk. I'll do it, but it's painful,
Me too. Yeah. People that know me, they don't ask me about the weather.
Yeah.
It's that tells you a lot about what's going on in the person. It's interesting. I dug it, man. If you guys listening, if you want to check out more of this dude's stuff, go follow the pages that he put up. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen or view here. To us, as I think you heard in this discussion, we're doing this because we think it's better for you, for your loved one. If you got young men in your life, send this over to them. We get nothing out of it. Nobody's paying us to sit here and have this chit chat. But I think Byron and I would probably both agree on this. It's a lesson or lessons that we learned through our time on Earth. Use them, man. Don't go drag your face in the mud if you don't have to.
Yeah. It's good.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Send us an email if you've got a topic that you'd like us to talk about. Please give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening or viewing on. And be well, be safe, be your own Calvary. This is Mickey, and today, Byron Rogers with a D. You want to say goodbye?
Boom. Hey, guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Bye.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.